Topic 1: Geopolitical tensions in the Middle East. Major Iranian strikes on a Qatar energy hub and ensuing threats sent oil and gas prices sharply higher, damaged facilities, disrupted air freight, hurting chip deliveries, and raised worries about broader supply chain and inflationary impacts. Summary: 3 to 4 lines. Iran struck Qatar's Ras Laffan LNG complex in retaliation for an attack on its South Pars gas field, causing widespread damage and partial shutdowns that cut Qatar's export capacity. Global oil and gas prices spiked sharply. Shipping through the Strait of Hormuz was effectively blocked, and LNG supply concerns drove price competition between Asia and Europe. Air freight capacity fell and semiconductor shipments were delayed, while markets and central banks reacted to higher inflation risks and supply shocks. Details. Incident overview. In retaliation for Israel's attack on Iran's South Pars gas field, Iran launched missiles at Qatar's key LNG complex, Ras Laffan, inflicting extensive damage and leaving some facilities out of operation. Qatar announced that some facilities were damaged and that a significant portion of its LNG export capacity was reduced. Press reports estimate a possible loss of about 17% of Qatar's energy capacity. Energy market shock. Major international crude prices, Brent, and natural gas prices surged. Brent rose toward $119 during the session, and European natural gas, TTF, jumped 15 to 25% in a single day, with some regions seeing prices double since the war began. Fears of LNG supply shortages intensified competition and upward price pressure across Asia and Europe. Supply and logistics disruptions. The Strait of Hormuz was effectively blocked, severely constraining oil and LNG shipments. A large share of existing LNG tonnage, Qatar accounts for roughly 1/5 of global LNG exports, was affected. Some ports, refineries, and gas facilities were also damaged by attacks and debris, leading to operational suspensions. Semiconductor and air cargo impact. Attacks across Middle Eastern air routes and airports forced rerouting and longer flights, reducing air freight capacity by about 9%, SV data. That caused delays and sharp price increases for high-value cargo, such as semiconductors, raising costs for European manufacturers and creating inventory pressure. Economic and financial effects. Rising energy prices and supply anxieties unsettled global equity and bond markets, European equities broadly weak except for some sectors. Central banks are watching the inflationary risk from the energy shock, increasing policy uncertainty. The Fed kept rates on hold but is monitoring price and war risks. Short and medium-term outlook. Experts estimate Ras Laffan repairs could take weeks to years. Press estimates 3 to 5 years, warning that supply constraints could last at least weeks to months. If the issue shifts from logistics to actual physical production shortfalls, price and supply shocks could persist and deepen. Policy responses and socioeconomic fallout. Asian and Middle Eastern governments activated energy-saving and emergency plans, fuel stockpiling, production adjustments, import diversification. The energy shock, inflationary pressure, production disruptions, and higher air freight costs risk feeding into consumer prices and weakening manufacturing competitiveness. Core conclusion: the Ras Laffan strike and the effective closure of Hormuz have transformed regional geopolitical tensions into a tangible energy infrastructure shock that pushed oil and gas prices and air freight costs sharply higher, produced real supply disruptions for sectors like semiconductors, and raised the prospect of prolonged inflationary and supply chain impacts that will be difficult to reverse quickly. Topic 2: Economic uncertainty and Fed leadership. An abrupt oil price shock clouds the Fed's economic outlook, complicating policy decisions. While Fed Chair Jerome Powell says he intends to remain in his post until an ongoing DOJ probe related to former President Trump is resolved. Summary: